Welcome back to the painting vlogs with One of the Nation's Rage. This is episode 6, and in this episode we're going to be taking care of detailing the water. Now, from the day that I put these waves in, I have not liked them one bit. And I'll explain why I don't like the way that I have the water blocked in. But basically, these waves, the colors are good. I like the colors, but as far as being realistic, they just don't cut it, and they're not up to par with the title of the painting. The title of the painting is Sea Under Siege, and these waves do not do justice to that title. These are some puny, unrealistic waves. And first of all, I'll just go ahead and try to explain that they're way too close together. We all know waves do not work in this kind of a fashion. They're normally a lot more spread out, but the way that I had them set up here is that they're all just kind of crammed together, way too close to each other. So they look more like ripples, foamy ripples, than waves. And you're gonna see in this video how I completely transform all of that. But I start out right here with the initial intention of wanting to add contrast to the detail that I had put in a few days ago, and I believe that was episode 4. And as I said in that video, I wanted to wait for the paint to dry so that I could come in and add more blue and make it darker, just to try to add more detail to what I already had. But even after I did this, I decided that it didn't cut it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it looked. It made sense in my mind, what I was doing here. I basically just wanted to add as much detail as I possibly could, and that was what I initially tried to do. But then I realized that I just didn't like the way it looked, so here I am coming in with a big brush. I believe this is a number 8 chisel tip brush, and I'm basically going to cover over the 2 waves that I had previously blocked in there, and I'm just making it one big wave. And when I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep in mind the direction that the wave is coming from and the cycle of the wave itself. So basically, the way that I portrayed this wave, or saw it in my head, is that it's a receding wave, meaning that it has already hit the rocks there and it's actually receding back out. And that's the cycle, the point of its cycle that it's in. I hope I'm making sense with how I'm describing this, but you know how waves, they come and they crash against the shore and then they recede, and they just keep doing that. Well, this one is receding. It's going back. So in this moment of time that I'm capturing here, that's the state that this wave is in. So it's not going to have a whole lot of foam. I guess that's the only word I can think of to describe it. It's not going to have a whole lot of foam in it because it's already hit the shore and it's starting to recede. So I'm just using the same colors that I used initially. I'm using Prussian blue and Phthalo green. Sorry, I couldn't think of the name of that. And then I'm using titanium white as well. Now I'm adding a little bit of glaze here with the titanium white, and it's effortlessly covering over all of that detail I just meticulously put in. Then I added a little bit of the phthalo green to my paintbrush, did the same thing, and then I added some Prussian blue and repeated my steps. Now already you can see how this is transforming the water and, you know, everything around it. And well, I'll go into a little bit more detail about my initial thoughts and what my initial intentions were. You see, initially I wanted to put several waves in the painting because I wanted to suggest that Tiberius and the point where the viewer is, or the point where the viewer would be standing if you were actually there, standing in front of Tiberius, or like if there was somebody that just snapped a picture of him walking up that cliffside. I wanted to suggest that the waves were actually very far away. I wanted to suggest that he was high up on the side of a cliff. So that's why I initially put multiple waves in. But like I said, after I had put them in, I realized that I didn't like the way it looked. And so I wanted to just put single waves in. And I think it, you know, from this point, I think it's making it look better. But it's also transforming the painting greatly. And you'll see what I mean as I move on. Right here, I'm just trying to add a little bit more detail into that wave. I'm trying to give it a transparent looking effect. By adding the titanium white, I'm trying to put some designs into the water itself. Just basing that off of looking at other paintings of waves. That's kind of what I was going for. But you see right here, I'm doing the same thing. I got rid of those 3 waves that I had initially put in. Now we've got one big wave. And, you know, like I said, it transforms the way the painting looks. He looks a lot closer to the water now than he initially did. And that's fine. But you also have to take into consideration that these are huge, gigantic waves. That's why the painting is called Sea Under Siege. It's because basically the sea is under the siege of a huge storm in the painting, and it's causing the ocean to swell. And so you've got these giant, violent waves going on. And, you know, waves can actually get pretty big, especially if the tide swells because of a storm or anything else. Waves in some areas of the world get huge. And so that's why I wasn't real worried about making these waves much bigger. And I'm glad that I did now, because it really, like I said, it not only transformed the way the painting looks, it's obviously going to make it look a lot better than it did before. And so technically, this is still step 2 for the water. Is basically what I did here could be considered blocking in. And a lot of the detail that I'm trying to put in here right now isn't working as good as it could if the paint were dry. But I probably am not going to have enough time to go back in for phase 3 on the water. So I'm trying to put as much detail into the block-in phase as I possibly can. I'm trying to basically combine step 2, the blocking in, with step 3, the adding detail. I had to repeat my work on the water. And it doesn't look too bad. The result that I got, I'm definitely happy with it, especially in comparison to what it looked like before. And finally, you're gonna see on the other side of that big rock that's in the water up at the top there, that I had a little bit of a hard time. It was kind of challenging trying to paint another giant wave that's on the other side of that rock, crashing against that rock. and make it look realistic. But I came in with I'm not sure what kind of brush you would call this, but it's basically, it's a blotting brush, I guess, is what I would call it. But it's a rather large blotting brush. And it's allowing me to add a whole lot of detail very quickly. I'm just trying to adjust the tone right here and try to get rid of that pure titanium white as much as I can, while keeping just a little bit of it. And then finally, I realized that, there's probably going to be quite a bit of mist being stirred up in the air from these giant waves hitting the shore. So I decided to add some Payne's gray here using the same method. Can you tell I really like this Payne's gray color? I used it a lot in this painting, but I like it a lot. Right here, I'm just trying to suggest fog. And that is what I got done today. Alright, we've come to the end of episode 6 here. And we have one more pretty big task in front of us, and that will be detailing Tiberius. We will do that in episode 7, which I will work on tomorrow. And one other thing to note about what I did today, it's a little off balance as far as the light. I'm aware of that. You've got these extremely dark rocks over here, and then you've got these really bright, foamy waves. So I'm just hoping that by Saturday, which is 2 days from now, it's the last day that I have to work on the painting before I will be handing it over to its rightful owner. And so I'm just hoping that within 2 days, that paint right there that I laid down today will be dry enough to come over with a slight Prussian blue mixed with a lot of glaze, just kind of skimming over some of the brightest parts and kind of tinting them, making them just calming them down a little bit, I guess would be the correct vocabulary for it, the correct way to describe it. Because right now there's some pure titanium white on the canvas, and that wouldn't be necessarily the case with it being dark outside. So it needs to be toned down a little bit, I would say. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. As I say, leave a comment, like the video if you did enjoy it, consider subscribing, and if you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you'll be updated and notified whenever I release the next video. Alright, Jared here with Why Did the Nations Rage, signing out, so on and so forth. Take it easy, guys.